Ladies and gentlemen, Duane Fletcher, Fletcher Community Media. I'm coming to you again. There's more and more information starting to come out, so I'm gonna probably start filming these podcasts more frequently. First, I want to talk about books I got, new books I got out. The Nibble Next by Duane Fletcher talks about these two Russian hitmen that came to town. It's a really good book. Check it out on blurb.com. Also, check out this one, The Battle of Fletcher, The Arrows. Talks about Napoleon's campaign against Russia about 200 years ago, in contrast to today's events. This is a really good book. It's kind of like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, except for the Russians are the bad guy in this one. Okay, it's a real good book. And the one that's causing all the controversy, The Black Hand. The Black Hand by Duane Fletcher. This is a really good one, really good book. This is one that's talking about all the different stuff that's going on with the politics and the tennis matches and the people that started World War I and things like that. It's a really good book. Check it out on blurb.com, blurb.com, blurb.com. Okay, so let's get this done because I got other things to do today. And I wanted to first start off talking about I had to film the other podcast, the last one twice because there were other things that I wanted to say. But I wanted to start off by talking about how right I was because I have been writing some of this stuff and this stuff is coming true like left and right. And like I was telling you, I wrote this one like 5 years ago, and the feds just recently raided this place not too long ago. And then there's some other stuff going on. This one right here, this one just came true with the stuff that's going on with like the New York Open and stuff like that. So I talked about the bracket system in this, and it looks like they flipped it around. It looks like somebody that was basically like heavily scrutinizing me was also at the same time flipping the information around for their own benefit. And probably I would not be surprised, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they were flipping it around for the Russians too, because it turns out that they have been selling private jets to some of the Russian oligarchs, people like Roman Abramovich, that basically just got in trouble and he got hit with a bunch of sanctions and stuff like that. And this side hustle from their defense contracts basically dried up overnight. And so like I said, I wouldn't be surprised because that's basically who got a handful of mix switch right now. Who has their hands on the mix switch right now is basically the defense contractor that I used to work for, and it looks like Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, it appears that they have their hands on the mix switch right now, but they swear to God it's not them. They swear to God that's not what they're doing, and things like that. But and then we ended up, we everybody was talking about this, but they ended up run to save Israel instead of putting pressure on Russia to run to go save Serbia and things like that. And that's just like a recap of what the last thing was. But what I want to talk about now is what's going on in the United Nations. Some of you may know, but China just became the president of the United Nations Security Council, and that's a pretty big deal because as you can see, the reason why Russia has not been forced out of Ukraine yet is because Russia has a big part of the United Nations Security Council, and they were sitting as president of the United Nations Security Council also. And basically, anytime the United Nations tried to tell Russia that they had to leave Ukraine or face NATO forces, basically Russia just vetoed it. Russia vetoed every motion that was put forward, and that had to do with them leaving Ukraine. Now China's in that position, and they're saying it's not going to be that long for them to be in this position. However, what it's probably going to do is give them some. I know what it's already done is giving them some insight. What it's already done is giving them some insight as to basically, it's giving them some insight as to how Russia did this, and they're probably going to switch it around to their benefit also. Because I can tell you right now, Chinese, they don't like Governor DeSantis because he just got through telling them that they can't buy property in Florida. And basically what he's doing is that he's punishing them. He's punishing them the same way Palestine is being punished for the actions of Hamas. So, it's like whatever China did. I mean, whatever they think that China did wrong, all the Chinese people are being punished for it in Florida, because there's a whole law saying that they're not allowed to buy property in Florida anymore, and things like that. And the thing is that I know the Chinese, they don't like Boeing either, the defense contractor that makes the F-18. And it appears, and I'm like I said, I'm not saying this is what it is, but it appears that that's what's going on. Like, this is some type of conspiracy between Boeing and Governor DeSantis, that where the Navy end up having to go run and go save Israel, so they could try and put the kibosh on President Biden's plans to save Ukraine and things like that. And it looks like that's what they did, because that's who's at the helm right now, and what I noticed, like I said, when I worked out there, the attitude they had was like, hey, Duane, you're getting kind of old there, Duane. What are you, like 40 years old now? Hey, we need to replace you with this. We need to replace you with this new guy named Bradley. Hey, man. And that's what's in the book, basically, their attitude. Or, hey, President Biden is getting real old, and we need to replace him with Ron DeSantis. That's what their attitude is. And they're basically somebody that's not in touch with reality and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, there's been books written about them by investigative reporters that cover like business and finance, that talked about some of their subcontractors being delusional and stuff like that. And that's basically who I worked for, one of the subcontractors that worked on the fighter jets for the Navy. But but the thing is, that this is what they would do, is that they would say, hey, you look like you're kind of old, you're getting kind of old. Hey, let's replace you with this guy that's cooler than you, named Bradley. Or no, man, you need to replace the F-18. That thing is 70 years old. Hey, well, you know what? Hey, President Biden looks like he's kind of getting old there. Let's replace him with Ron DeSantis. No. You need to replace your F-18 with a newer plane. And this delusion, they afforded themselves this allowance of this delusion, basically, to every time that they were faced with losing their contract on the F-18, to try and stand next to something that's 70 years old, so they can say this other thing that's 70 years old needs to be replaced instead of their plane, and things like that. And that's the attitude that they had, they carried out there and stuff like that. And like I said, this tennis player in this book, he was not discriminated against. They discriminated against me because I wrote this book. That's what they did. They discriminated against me because I wrote this book. So, but we already covered that. So what I want to say, start talking about this, the Chinese have become president of the United Nations Security Council, and more than likely, they're going to probably do the same thing that Russia did. That they're going to go for like some type of land grab and probably try to grab Taiwan or possibly the Philippine Islands. That they're, having a heat. I doubt if they invade Cambodia. They might invade Cambodia. You never know. It might be Cambodia, because how this appears to work is that the people that actually start siding with them, that's who they try and go after first. And the Cambodians have been kind of buddy with the Chinese as of lately, back and forth to China to meet the president of China. And apparently there was an argument with one of the rear admirals about the Chinese building a military base and bulldozing the American buildings on the Cambodian military base and things like that. This is stuff that's been in the news and stuff like that. And the thing is that if this stuff starts to happen, basically it's gonna thin the American military out. There's already have depleted lots of weaponry that was donated to Ukraine. And now they have to arm Israel as well. And now there's possibly going to be a third theater, like I was saying, that opens up with China trying to take Cambodia, or China trying to take Vietnam, China trying to take the Philippine Islands, or China trying to take Taiwan. Ooh, excuse me. But what I notice is that basically, and I'm pretty sure this is going to happen though, but China is probably going to throw a big monkey wrench into the Israeli argument. And, Russia already did that. Russia already threw a big monkey wrench into the Israeli argument at the United Nations. As a matter of fact, the Russian ambassador, he basically destroyed the Israel's argument of self-defense at the United Nations Council, and so much so till they had to basically not vote for the resolution that they were submitting, because apparently in international law, United Nations international law is that says that basically you cannot claim self-defense as a occupying force of another land. So basically, you can't go in somebody else's house and say it's self-defense, or go in somebody else's yard and say it's self-defense. Or if you're on someone else's land, and Israel has a big issue with their settlers being on Palestinian land. It's a big issue. I mean, they've been told by the United Nations to stop the settlements many times. They've been told by the United Nations to stop the blockades many times. But basically, under international law, Israel can't claim self-defense if they're on someone else's land. And that's basically what the issue is, about them with the settlers arguing back and forth with the Jewish settlers over there and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure China's going to do the same thing. They're going to try to destroy Israel's argument. And I say that because 5 minutes ago, I'm not going to say 5 minutes ago, okay? But let's say, what is it? 2 years ago? Let's look it up. Let's look it up and make sure. Let's see. Let's look it up and make sure. Let's look this up and make sure. Chinese ambassador to Israel has heart attack. Okay. You look it up for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it, but you can look some of this stuff up for yourself. Well, let's go to some images here and let's look this up. And this is Mr. Duane. Hold on. Mr. Duane. And Mr. Duane, Chinese ambassador Duane, had a mysterious heart attack and died in Israel. Recently. He had a mysterious heart attack and died in Israel very recently. And I know the Chinese haven't forgot about that, because it was kind of like a slap in the face to them, because everybody was arguing about the coronavirus at the time. And basically, the Chinese ambassador said something like, hey, there's other people you should be looking at that's using toxins besides the alleged accident they had in China with the coronavirus. That's what he said. And right after he said that, he had a heart attack and died in Israel, which alludes to the fact that the Mossad may have killed him, and which is Israeli intelligence. And it's possible that because they was arguing about the coronavirus at the time, that he may have been witness to them poisoning people in Gaza Strip or poisoning Muslims in Palestine or things or something like that. It's possible that he might have been a witness, and because he spoke out, because apparently something was going on and it was being heavily heaped on his shoulders, and he apparently felt some type of way, and he spoke out, and he had a heart attack and died right after that. And I know the Chinese haven't forgot about that at all, and now it's their turn to be president of the Security Council, which means that they're going to further destroy Israel's argument about claiming self-defense and things like that. And you know, this another thing that's kind of irking me too, because I worked at this place and we used to have candid conversations until basically they flipped. Basically, there was an issue where there was an elderly Caucasian man that worked there, and he would come over to my desk every day for like 2 years. Every day he would come over to my desk and start this conversation about the election and da 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 da. And when after Ukraine was invaded by Russia, they started trying to flip the situation around, like I was bothering him, because you know what I got what I have been talking about. What have been talking about these Russian guys that came to town and was chopping people up, and I was told basically to stop talking about this stuff because apparently it made me sound too much cooler than my freaking supervisor, and he should have been worried about other things, but he wasn't, because they was planning something else. And the reason why I say this, because like I said before, they kept bragging about being able to go retire to the private sector if they lost their contract and things like that. And but if they're going to if it's going to something's going to happen like Russia destroying Israel's argument, why would Russia destroy Israel's argument like that? Okay? Why would Russia destroy Israel's argument? And the thing is the only thing I can think of is that they are actively cooking up. They're cooking up something else. You know, they're actively cooking up something else. Meaning that they're cooking up another theater. Why would Russia destroy Israel's argument like that at a United Nations Security Council meeting? They're cooking up another theater, another active theater, but not for themselves, for the Americans, to end up fighting against a unified Arab nations, where they probably start off fighting against Yemen and Palestine, and let's see, they probably start off fighting against Yemen and Palestine, but it's going to be other people dragged into it, probably like Egypt and probably Libya, Egypt. You never know, because these things always get bigger than what somebody thinks is. Because I can tell you right now, it looks to me like, and it appears that this is what may have happened, that somebody just knocked President Biden's battle plans on the ground. They just knocked his battle plans on the ground, and they're trying to replace it with this stuff about Israel. This stuff that's going on about it. Matter of fact, they've been arguing in the United States Senate because they want to fund Israel separately. They want to have a separate Israel fund set up instead of having a joint fund where they're just donating money to Ukraine and Israel. The Republicans want their own Israel fund set up so that they can fund Israel separately from Ukraine. They don't want to have to do it. They've been having these ridiculous arguments and stuff back and forth. But it looks like DeSantis and because, you know, he was taking trips back and forth to Israel. He was taking trips back and forth to Israel. He even wrote a law saying that that no one could dig into his flight manifest, saying that that like it's top secret or something. It's not top secret. You're the governor, not the president. You get over yourself. You know, it's ridiculous. And but he even wrote a law saying that it was illegal, that he didn't have to legally produce his travel records. And he had been traveling back and forth to Israel, and possibly could have been setting up some kind of false flag that for him and the Navy to come running to Israel's rescue, and basically pull them off a rush. Because like I said, in Florida, I know, excuse me, in Florida he has a lot of Jewish and Russian constituents here in Florida that are Republican. And basically, you know, there's even rumors that there's Russian oligarchs dodging sanctions that live in Ponte Vedra near his house and things like that. There's a bunch of stuff people have been talking about here down here that people have been talking about that has to do with it now. And as a matter of fact, President Zelensky even talked about Jacksonville having a sister city tie with Murmansk, Russia one time, and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a bunch of stuff that's been being talked about. Now let's look up some of this stuff. Let's look up some of this stuff here. Russian oligarch, Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, here we go right here. Here's the guy right here. Now, this guy right here, Makarov, that's the guy that allegedly lives in DeSantis' old neighborhood. You know, he lives in a governor's mansion now. But before he became governor, this was apparently one of his neighbors in Ponte Vedra Beach. And there's rumors that Makarov is dodging sanctions from Canada and Australia, and Florida will not enforce the sanctions. No law enforcement in Florida won't enforce the sanctions. And apparently this guy, he was like he used to go on business trips with Putin to different places and stuff like that. There's pictures of it on there. Look it up for yourself. So you don't have to take my word for it. It's not just some black guy talking about it. Okay, because I know some of you are prejudiced out there where information comes from, and things like that. But you know, he basically he was taking those trips back and forth to Israel, and then he wrote a law saying he don't have to legally produce his flight manifest, and it could possibly be something like that. Like say, well, you know, let's say years from now, let's 5 years from now, let's say, you know, like seriously, let's say let's say 5 years from now we find out DeSantis was in Israel setting up some type of false flag or something like that. 5 years from now, let's say, and then other things come to light. You know, that's what could have been going on. So, like I said before, I would suggest that, because I know there was one of the politicians, American politicians, a person who I pretty much respect and everything. I respect their opinion, but they were like, "Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage for Israel?" And the first thing I was thinking, like, dude, you don't want to be outraged right now. You need to get all of the facts. Okay, what happened? There was a terrorist attack. Okay, well, why didn't you see it coming? You're watching this guy you're always bragging about watching this guy like a hawk. Why didn't you see it coming? You know, it's things that needs to be answered before you just rush in blindly because you're outraged for Israel. Okay, and you shouldn't be outraged for Israel. You know, you need to go in and determine what happened before you become a party to a war crime, because there's a lot of people suggesting, like the parliament in Ireland is suggesting that Israel is right now committing a war crime. They told you that they were going to commit a war crime, and they have commenced doing the deed. I believe it was the exact words that the man talked about and stuff. But he makes some really powerful speeches against Israel even being in Palestine at all. Israel Parliament talks about Israel. Hold on, wait a minute. Irish Parliament talks about Israel war crimes. Oh man, this guy right here, he gives some really fiery speeches. Let me see, what's his name? Richard Boyd. His name is Richard Boyd. But Richard Boyd, he's in the Irish Parliament, and he gives some really fiery speeches about Israel being in Palestine at all, because he says that they have told Israel many times to dismantle the blockades and things like that, and end the apartheid and the racism and apartheid that was going on on the Gaza Strip. And they said that they've told them many times to stop, and apparently it's true. It is. There's no two ways about it. There's an issue about the prime minister from Brazil who has accused Israel of war crimes. It's like, it's a genocide. Basically, they want that strip of land. It's no, come on, man. If you look, you can look at a map of it and tell what's going on. Okay, if you know anything about the military, if you know anything about politics, if you know anything about the argument between Israel and Palestine, and how Israel has been encroaching on this land, just like the way they say China encroaches on India's land, and stuff like that. It's an encroachment law argument, basically. But if you know anything about maps, or anything about politics, or anything about this argument, or if you know anything about the military, you can tell what's going on just by looking at a map. Okay, let me show it to you. Hold on. Map of Gaza Strip. Let's look at this. Okay. Okay. So basically, the West Bank is that's that highlighted area right there, and Israel owns that, everything around it, separating it from the coast. And then right here in this little corner down there at the bottom, Palestine also owns that land right there, which is the Gaza Strip. But you can see all of this in here is Israel separating their lands. Okay, so the thing is that Israel wants that piece of land. That's just common sense, and people should wake up to that. That's what this whole argument is about. Israel wants that piece of land. And that's really all I had to say today, guys. And check me out, blurb.com, Duane Fletcher on blurb.com. Check it out. The Black Hand, this is the best one right now. Check it out, Black Hand, blurb.com. Okay, that's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.